Hey everybody, welcome back to Quali-Tea time. So, boy do I have a story to tell today. Last couple of weeks, I've mentioned that some funds went missing from my account to the tune of about 160 quid, which pushed me very close to the red line, and then subsequently past it because other things had to be paid. So, I went to the local council because apparently they were the ones that got this money, and first time I went, they said they had no record of it. So I went to my bank, I got a letter saying that it actually existed, and then I went back, and bearing in mind, like, the local council is open for about 35 hours a week, which is absurd to me, but bleh. So yes, I went back, I waited for about an hour to actually be served, and that included 20 minutes outside in the cold and wind, and I spoke to the same department again, and I showed them the paper, and they asked me where my previous address was, in addition to my current address, and it sort of came to light that, indeed, they had no record of it being requested for here, because it wasn't requested for here. It was requested for my previous abode. Turns out I've been paying council tax for my previous residence this entire year, to the tune of somewhat in the range of about 700 quid-ish. And nobody at the council thought this was strange at all. Odd that. So now, it'll take up to about 2 weeks for them to get me the full rebate of about 700 quid, but assuming that MCM tickets don't go completely out of, stock by then, Fuzz and I attending MCM is now a certainty. And then some. Heck, we could fly down on, a first-class train if we wanted to. We won't, because we're not that ludicrously rich, but we could if we wanted to. Look really out of place amongst all the business people. The only other piece of news this week is that I have received an email, literally within the last hour, from Nodecraft, who is our host for the Patreon server, saying that they are unfortunately going to be closing down their EU-UK data site. This is due to a variety of issues, namely it's handled by a different supplier that doesn't quite provide the same kind of accessibility and quality that they require, as well as various other factors. But that means we'll be transferring over to most likely the closest EU one we can. That won't happen, however, until about the 28th, so hopefully things will go smoothly. They say in the email that they will be making backups and checking every single file that they pass over in the process. Hopefully our backups will remain sturdy, but I will download one on the 27th to make sure things go relatively smoothly. But with that in mind, on to the schedule. Thursday night at 11 PM BST, we have more Dark Souls free with Midnight Souls over at twitch.tv/lyinginbedmon. On Friday, we have Maiding Do as the maid seeks out a little bit of expert assistance. On Saturday, there's a bit of power leveling going on in Edgington, but we also have Dungeons & Dragon Hats with the Path of Steel campaign at 9 PM BST over at twitch.tv/dragonhat. On Sunday, we have our first video in Spring Realms with the launch of the new map. On Tuesday, we have some plasma technology being unlocked for XCOM, and we also have Yogdwarves Live number 57, which was delayed this past week due to some technical concerns, but should be up and running hopefully on time this time. And closing out the schedule on Wednesday, we have an episode of Dungeon Maker, where we finally get away from the goddamn Guardian farm. And so, on to the questions. So, these are, of course, as always, drawn from the comment section of the preceding video, and if you have anything you want to ask me, stick it down in the comments below. Our first question comes from Master Art. Are there going to be more Lying Talks videos? Well, I definitely have a much more high-quality kind of area to shoot them in. It depends on where I can find, a subject, and also they're not the best, viewed videos I've ever made. That might be because of their production quality, it might be because of just the subject matter or the manner in which I upload it forward as a very educational, like informative kind of style video, rather than my current content, which is mostly video games and comedy. The comedy mostly being me playing video games. So they're not. I wouldn't rule them out, but I have no firm plans currently. Mike Miner, aka Sillydude, asks, do you have any other advice for writing? Pretty much it's a case of just stick with it, just keep writing. Do your research on things that you're writing about that you don't necessarily have a firm grasp on. Where possible, try to write things that you actually know, especially from personal experience, but that doesn't necessarily mean if you are a 16-year-old black female, then write about 16-year-old black females, although black females and teenagers in general need better writing anyways. But it does, like, ground it, basically. People like even their fantasy to have a slight degree of grounding. So if your heroine is riding around on dragons, firing lightning from their nose, then I don't know, maybe have them deal with some ozone and some slight singeing of the nasal hair issue, I don't know. But yeah, just keep writing, keep it grounded, do your research. That's the three main things I can, like, obviously suggest for writing. Sophie Smith Campbell asks, what is a good character class to start off with in D&D? Generally speaking, I don't know exactly what version this is you're referring to, but generally speaking, the fighter class is one of the more streamlined, simple ones that you can take, and it is a great learner class. You can be, like, it is a class that has a lot of variability to it, so you can make some very complex builds that are ridiculous at later levels if you get more experience with it. You could also play a cleric, because every party needs a healer, but that's a little bit more complicated. Another idea is you could play the sorcerer. Sorcerers have limited spells, and then wizards have set spells, but that's getting a bit more into the magic side of thing, and the magic side of thing is a whole lot more rules on how every single spell works, so I would generally recommend fighter. Start off with just a plain old sword and board, stand in the way between the squishy things and the squishy things that you want dead, and roll to attack. That's about it. Rafe on Shaker closes out the day with, what could possibly replace XCOM after it finishes? Well, there are older XCOM games that I haven't played. Much older XCOM games that I haven't played. There's also an XCOM board game, believe it or not, for both versions, XCOMs 1 and 2. And honestly, if I didn't do XCOM, or a version of XCOM, I'm not really sure what would fill that slot. But then I didn't imagine that XCOM would fill that slot initially either, so who knows? Maybe it'll be the next big thing that comes out, ideally for PC, and for an affordable price, that goes into that slot. But XCOM 2 has a little bit more longevity in it just yet, so with that in mind, I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you all next time.